I've been anxious for a few days and I've just realized that this is the reason. Recording this video is the reason for my anxiety. So welcome. This video will maybe come out very awkward and unorganized and unstructured. This is my first video without me writing a script. It will be choppy, it will be strange, maybe it won't make sense, but it's important for me to record it even if it gets like 0 views. And I think the reason why I'm so anxious about recording it is because this is the first time I'm actually a bit afraid that someone from my life that knows me in real life will actually see this one video and then talk to me about it if they ever find my channel, and I really hope it doesn't happen. So if you know me in real life and you're watching this, do not talk to me about this video, please. I'm not ready. Heartstopper. I know this has been discussed before because I remember a friend of mine talking to me about this all the way back when the first season was released. So I know this has been a discussion that has been going on for literally years, and I kind of want to contribute to it because, like, I was there. I was there when this was happening. The first time I encountered the world of Heartstopper was back when it was a webcomic. I think I must have found it on Tumblr or something like that, like the very last days of my Tumblr journey that I started when I was like 15, and this was in university when I saw the comic. I clicked the link and I just started reading it, and I think I spent like an afternoon reading it, and I read all the way up to the Paris trip, I think. My housemate at the time literally came by my room and was like, "What are you doing? Like, you've been there staring at your computer for so long. What are you doing?" And I just said, I'm reading a webcomic. Yeah, that was my first encounter with Heartstopper, but then I learned it was going to be a TV show and I just stopped reading it and I was like, I'm gonna wait for a TV show. And then a TV show came out. And the only way that I can explain to you how it felt, for context, because this is important, I'm not the target audience for this show. I am currently 28 years old. I was born in 96, which means I'm kind of like at the cusp year of the ending of the millennial generation. I don't know which one I belong to, Gen Z or millennials. I feel a little bit part of both, which I think would make me a zillennial. The zillennial culture is refusing to be either millennial or Gen Z and then belonging nowhere. But yeah, this show was not meant for me. I was not the target audience, but I watched it because I had read the comic and thought it was really cute. And the only way that I can describe the feeling that you have being an older person, a young adult, watching this show for preteens and teens, specifically this very gay show, this very gay, cute, wholesome show, the feeling that you have as an older person is just pure joy. The feeling that you get is pure joy. Because not even for the fact that you're watching this incredibly wholesome, almost Disney Channel-like show that mostly stars queer characters. The feeling of joy that you get is from knowing that the target audience of this show are preteens and teens, and that they are growing up with this on their television. But for you to understand why it was such a feeling of joy to have a show like this, I need to explain 2010's teen dramas. Basically, we're talking about Gossip Girl, Pretty Little Liars, Teen Wolf, Vampire Diaries, all that stuff, right? This is the teen dramas shows that I grew up with. Maybe Skins as well was a big one for me, and that's pretty much it. There were queer characters in these shows. Often, at least one main character was queer in these shows. But the thing about the queer representation in these shows, it was simply about two aspects of it. It was about it being just painful, the pain and the suffering that comes sometimes with being queer, and just having extremely sexualized queer characters. These were the two aspects of queerness that I grew up with in television. Suffering and sex. So much so that the first TV show I can recall there was actually a positive representation, I was already in university, and it was Sense8. Sense8, for those of you who don't know, which is everyone because I've never said this before in this channel, is my favorite TV show of all time. of all time. Nothing will ever surpass Sense8. It's not because it's the best TV show ever made. If you go see a list of the best TV shows ever made, Sense8 will not be in the 100th spot even. It's not talked about at all. To me, it is my favorite TV show ever. I can't explain to you the things that Sense8 did for me. Sense8 did for me what I expect Heartstopper has done for a lot of kids. So the representation that I grew up with was basically just problematic. It was the best it could do at the time. Like, I completely understand it, and it was good that it existed, at least in that form. And the thing that really summarizes this representation is with Pretty Little Liars, because we had Emily and Maya, which was the most wholesome, cute thing in the world. And then they killed off Maya, and they brought in Paige. And Paige and Emily are one of the biggest Emily ships on the show. And what was the introduction to Paige? It was her drowning, trying to drown Emily in the freaking pool. And then Emily ends up with Allison, who was supposedly her best friend, but bullied her for being gay. And I mean, to me, that felt normal. When I was a kid, when I was younger watching this, I was like, yeah, sure. So having a TV show in the form of Heartstopper that is so absolutely wholesome and cute is important. Because the thing is, even though what I'm about to say is going to sound like the most ridiculous, silly shit you will hear this entire fucking week, unfortunately this is the truth. The only time in my childhood when I was exposed to ideas such as racism and sexism or misogyny was through the problematic, now we know problematic platform called the Disney Channel. The first time I ever even observed a discussion about racism was through this Disney Channel film called The Color of Friendship. And I'm pretty sure if I watched it now as an adult, I would see all the problematic aspects of it. But when I was a kid, watching this stuff and watching a lot of TV shows on Disney Channel that had people of color and did not make a big deal about it, they were just characters like everyone else. To me, somehow, it imprinted in my mind the idea, the very basic idea that it's all you need to know when you're a child, that regardless of the color of your skin, people are fucking human. That was the basic idea that was imprinted in my brain when I was a kid. And again, this is ridiculous to say that I wasn't passed these values from my family life, my community, my school life, from a Disney Channel show. Ridiculous, I know, but it's genuinely the truth. And and the thing is that Heartstopper is such a wholesome show that kind of mimics these really wholesome Disney Channel Cartoon Network shows that we grew up with. Because there was a difference in my real life behavior when I was exposed to racism versus when I was exposed to homophobia. When I was about 12 years old and there started to be talk about guys and boyfriends and crushes and whatever, to my face, a person close to me, to my family said this: If you ever date or bring home a black boy, I will run him away with my shotgun. 12 years old. And in my mind, even at that age, my first reaction was, that's fucking stupid. At that point, I think Cory in the White House is already out, or it was like the ending seasons of Raven. So in my mind, when I picture the black boy, I picture Cory. And so in my mind, when this person said this to me, I picture them like trying to shoot Cory. And he was like, what are you saying? That's stupid. It was immediate. I didn't even need to think about it. I didn't rationalize or reflect on anything. It was an immediate reaction. What you're saying is absolutely insane and makes no sense to me. However, a year later, when I was 13 years old, I was with this very same person in the car. And a gay couple was on the street kissing, I think saying goodbye or something. And this person was getting very agitated, getting very aggressive, and saying, I'm going to go out there and punch them in the face. And what do you think I did? I laughed. 13 years old. I laughed. I thought that was funny. I thought that him going out and punching two people who are just showing affection to each other just because they are two men, I thought that was hilarious as shit. I had never seen ever affection being portrayed positively between a queer couple ever. Ever in my life. Ever. Not in real life, not on television, not in a film, ever. And at that time, I was still too young to understand the undertones of queer coding in TV shows, so I'd never seen it. In fact, the only thing I'd seen up until that moment were jokes, because I grew up in Portugal. There were a lot of soap operas going around, even soap operas for young kids, and it was a joke. And at 13 years old, in school, being called gay was still an insult. It was a way to bully people. I had absolutely no example, no representation of positive affection between same-sex couples. None. For me, this was especially harmful because, if you cannot tell by my reviews of Agatha all along, I am not straight. And I started realizing this when I was about 15 years old. The first time I actually tested the reaction of like a family member was when I was 15. I wanted to like see how they would react if I showed like affection towards a girl. And so at the dinner table I said, "Oh, today I was so tired in school I fell asleep in my friend's lap, my girlfriend's lap." And immediately my family member said, "You need to stop doing that lesbian shit." And it's just... And I never again said a thing. Never. And to this day, like, this is the reason in the beginning of the video I said, like, if you know me in real life, don't talk to me about this, because I'm not ready. Like, I genuinely am not. But this is why positive representation and diversified representation is so important, because the journey, or I don't know, whatever you want to call it, life of you figuring out who you are and what you want is so complex, especially in a society like ours where we are not free to explore ourselves, to figure out what we want. We are not free to do it openly everywhere. Like, we need to be tempered and we need to be aware of where we are and who we're with, because sometimes it can be dangerous. And the fact that Heartstopper, over these 3 seasons, has expanded and has diversified the way they explore these stories is so important to me, because I was sobbing through the majority of the first part of season 3, especially in episode 4. But when it got to that part where Imogen is with Nick and she's been kissing her friend and seeing like, I don't know what this is, and she tells Nick, "I'm not even sure if I've ever liked any of the boys that I dated," I could have sobbed for days. For days. Like, up until season 3, the characters that I've identified with the most have been Isaac and Tori. Like, they are me. They are me. Reading books and being depressed. Me. But then season 3 came around, and Imogen's arc was just... because same. As an older person, because when I started watching this show, I think I would still be considered young adult, but now I'm very much an adult. Sometimes it lets you process things that you didn't even reflect on when you were younger. Like when Isaac, quote unquote, comes out and tells first Charlie and then the whole group that he's ROAs, I was sobbing because I would have never even considered telling my friends during high school that I had these doubts, that I had these questions, that I had this in my mind. Like, I would have never considered telling a friend of mine that I kissed, that I liked it. I would have never considered doing that. Never, ever in a million years. And when I saw Imogen and... what's the other girl's name? I don't remember. And I saw them talking about it, and the girl telling Imogen, "Yeah, you were the reason I figured out I like girls." I was like, you can tell that to your friends? Like, obviously, I know you can, but it was different back then. And to the people who criticize it a lot for being very cheesy and cringe and questioning if there even are people like this in real life, I'm here to tell you yes. There are people like this in real life. There are such great people and such great friends that they will support you through anything. Will you find a consistent group of 10 or 12 people like that? Probably not. But one or two, yeah, they exist. I have some of those in my life. And as I've said during this video, like, I'm not comfortable talking about a lot of things related to like my private life with people, but that's just because the way I was raised. Like, I was raised like a man, don't cry, don't show weakness, punch first. So it's something I'm still working on, but there are a couple people in my life that I know I have zero doubts would support me through anything. Actually, you can see some evidence. This was a Christmas present from a friend of mine. We were doing Secret Santa, and she spent literally weeks preparing the gift with messages and pictures, kind of like Tao's video. So they do exist, and you will find them. I'm thinking if I should post this or not. I'm currently at half an hour of recorded footage. It might come up just to be like 5 minutes. Because this is a very cringe thing, but I don't know if anyone can relate to this, but it just feels really easier to say all this stuff to people on the internet that I probably will never meet than it is to say it to, like, my people. By the way, these are like conversations that I have rehearsed like 1,000 times in my head on the way that I would like talk to my close friends about it, and like not just about this, but about a whole bunch of shit in my life, and I just never seem to be able to do it. So now I've done it. It won't even get any views. Who cares? Right? It won't get any views.